several different reasons and they overlap. So the first reason is, I mean, I think we are in Western societies just generally, there is an information gap when it comes to understanding, you know, the involvement in Western countries in the genesis, the origin story of different kinds of racism, whether that's anti-Semitism, whether that's anti-Black racism that, you know, underwrote and justified slavery and colonialism, and, you know, the legacy of which continues to this day, whether that's Islamophobia. We are generally, I think, societies that are quite low information about all of that to begin with. And then I think it's just the reality that, you know, exactly as you say, the way anti-Semitism manifests, it's essentially a conspiracy about power. It's the powerful setting up a Jewish minority as a scapegoat, to be the punch bag when things go wrong. And yes, it does manifest as structural racism sometimes, even to this present day. And at the same time, primarily, its mechanism isn't the same as it is with anti-Black racism and with other forms of racism. And so the fact that it does manifest in different ways can make it seem harder to understand. I cannot put this any better than Gary Young, the British writer, who in a recent lecture said racism is a language that has many dialects, right? And so all these different kinds of racism are essentially dialects. We understand that they're different, right? But we also understand that they are fundamentally racism. And the fact that anti-Semitism has this slightly different mechanism, I think makes it harder to latch onto, particularly when we're looking at societies where, again, on the whole, Jewish people post-Holocaust, post-Second World War, were absorbed into, you know, whiteness, were absorbed into Western societies. You look at the story in the US, in the UK. But I actually think that that's part of the reason why, you know, you say we learn about the 30s onwards, but not before. I think that it's very difficult for Western societies, and we see this when it comes to talking about slavery. It's very difficult for Western societies to talk about these stories, Britain, for instance, unless it's to say, yeah, but we're the good guys. We have a redemption narrative. So with slavery, it's like, well, we abolished it. And it's like, yeah, fine, but you were a major part of it for centuries, right? And so with anti-Semitism, there's this story in the UK of, well, we fought Hitler, you know, we defeated Hitler, we fought Nazism, therefore we're the good guys. And so there's this reluctance to look at a story that goes, okay, but prior to Hitler, prior to the Third Reich, there were hundreds and hundreds of years of rampant anti-Semitism across Europe. And indeed, Britain, in many ways, was the origin story of much of that, with the blood libel conspiracy that did start off in the UK. So there's a reluctance to look at the story where there's a Western involvement in creating or promoting or reproducing the racism that we're talking about, I think, whichever one it is.